ready?
Yep, I'm ready if you are.
Let's go.
Okay. Okay, I call to order this meeting of the Middlebury Development Review Board for May 22nd, 2017. First thing I'll do is go over the business agenda briefly, and we only have one item. That's an application by Tyler Maynard for a conditional use review of a request to construct a single-family house in the Forest District. If anybody, first of all, make sure you sign in with on the clipboard over there, especially if you want to ask questions or participate in the hearing tonight. And at this point, are there, from the board, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications that we want to notify of? Hearing none. Are there any public communications on any item not on the agenda tonight? I will try. Next item is the approval of minutes of 5/8/2017. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
I want a clarification entered.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Moved in second. Ann?
On lines 68 and 69, when I was reading this, it took me a while to figure out. Actually, it's not there. It's on 73 and 74. It took me a while to figure out what it was I was supposed to have said. And I realized that what was said was that since this was a preliminary review, they don't have to come back for a final hearing if they don't want to. And I'd like to enter those words in there to make it clear that I wasn't saying they didn't need another hearing.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, I'm fine with the minutes.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Okay. The one business application we have tonight is an application by Tyler Maynard for a conditional use review of a request to construct a single-family house with an accessory apartment on Burnham Drive. The property is located on parcel 09058 in the Forest District. Okay, would you like to come up and state your name and tell us about the project?
My name is Tyler Maynard, and I will be presenting the proposed development of this lot. Do you want me to be up there?
Sure.
So, basically I'm proposing single-family residence for me, my wife, 3 children, as well as an auxiliary apartment for my retired parents who want to travel and not have to worry about a separate residence elsewhere. Basically, I've altered the location of the septic to put it basically out of the way in better soils. These are tested, and I've made sure it's a better system than what was originally designed. Everything's in the originally approved areas. Back in 2006, this lot was under approval for basically the same thing. I moved my residence slightly closer to the road. My parents' residence is actually going to be in the original building envelope, and the septic is in the approved septic location. Another major change, I know it's a walking path right here, and we're not removing that by any means. We're just altering its location. We still want the public to be able to use it. We have no reason to shut it down. Our kids are going to use it, so and we know it's a good trail all the way up through. Basically, it's a pretty straightforward design, and I believe every setback we need to meet is met. And I already have the septic design approved, so. From here, any questions or comments, or?
Okay, I was out there today. Now, where the clearing has occurred, is
Yep.
that generally speaking where the house
Yes.
is going to be in the accessory house?
We had that all surveyed by a forester, and he recommended what be taken.
Okay. Now, is that clearing completed?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, on the sewer system, somewhere I read that you don't need a replacement?
No, this
Field?
one's actually double, or 1.5 times its size, which is a state allowed rule that says if you do it 1.5 times its size, it reduces the need for a replacement area.
Okay. All right.
And pressurized.
It is pressurized, yes. Yep. There's a pump station.
So I guess I'm confused, Kevin.
Yes, go ahead.
We're talking a single-family house, but yet it's actually, you're gonna have a separate house to the side for your family.
Right,
How
but
did that
it's,
become a single-family home with 2 dwellings?
the size of the apartment is only 1 bedroom. So if it's gonna be a second family, it's again gonna be a couple. And there's really, I believe in the state of Vermont, that there's an auxiliary apartment is not a second dwelling because it's considered family use. I don't ever plan on renting that out. It'll always be a guest house or used by a family member. Therefore,
Doesn't have to be attached, Jim?
nope.
You can have detached accessory apartments as long as it meets the square footage requirement and the homeowner lives in one of the two.
Yes. And all of those have been met.
So square footage either has to be 410 square feet or 30% of the floor area of the primary dwelling, whichever is greater. So when we took 30% of the floor area of your house, we came up with a square footage that was about right.
Okay.
So there will be 3 structures: the house, the garage, and the coach house.
This garage probably isn't gonna happen this year or next year, so
But someday perhaps.
we will come back and propose it that.
But the coach house is,
That's gonna happen this year.
So how do you, I guess this would be for Jim, because I'm trying to remember back when the proofs came in, when they were in the forest district, and there was some issue with how we were to deal with that. How does, if the applicant builds a house, he builds the accessory apartment, his father moves into it, 5 years down the road, his parents decide to leave Vermont, he sells the house, now we have 2 dwellings with conditional use. How do you control what happens thereafter? Is there deed restrictions? Is there something in the, tell me how you deal with that?
Right, so if the parents could live in Colorado full-time, and then he could rent that out, and it would still be an accessory dwelling and allowable as long as Tyler still lived in the main house. Or Tyler could live in the accessory apartment and rent the main house. He needs to be on the site. So if he sells the house, then when they do the title search, it doesn't say 2 dwellings. It says dwelling plus accessory apartment.
So they would still have to follow those same stipulations if they buy the property.
And so then if they go to sell it again and there's a title, it's mostly through the title search that you would catch it, I guess, but there's no deed restriction.
I have a question. Looking back to the previous minutes, it looks like one lot was gonna be built on, and then they decided to build on the other lot.
They've already built on the first lot to the left.
Oh, okay, but there's lot A and B, and it seemed to be switched around. They built on the 15-acre lot, and originally they were planning on building on the 20-acre lot.
Yeah, that could be.
But I don't care, but is that gonna cause a problem down the road?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, both of these lots will be built on.
Any other questions at this time?
So the accessory size never could be expanded, what you're telling me.
I couldn't anyways because of wastewater. I couldn't get any more bedrooms in there due to wastewater restrictions.
Even with all that acreage?
Unless I do more testing and I'd have to prove it and have to refile my permit for another $1,000. It wouldn't be worth it. I'm sure I could, don't get me wrong, there's excellent soils on this
Well,
property,
yeah,
but that's never
what I'm
mine.
thinking, it's pretty pervious soil, so.
But I'd still have to go in front of the board and approve all that too. So it's not really my intention at all. Right now, I'm locked in septic, this is as big as I can go. So I would have to increase everything again.
So the septic's okay for 5 bedrooms?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes, Ann?
Can you address how the stormwater running down the driveway is going to be handled?
It's basically going, right here is a huge original swale that at some point back in the 80s or 90s was diverted to go down in Route 116, that stream. There's a bridge going over it now. It used to run through here naturally. Well, now the water basically drains this way across, and we're just running a drainage swale down that way, and we've already talked to the neighbor, and he said his drainage can handle going to the same as that culvert it's going to now.
And what about, is there just one driveway and you're going to share it with the?
Yep, they're gonna wrap around us and just drive. Yep.
So will there be an easement for one or the other of the parcels?
Oh, we already have a right of way on this lot,
Okay.
on the first lot.
So there won't be an additional access to Burnham Drive?
There will not be, no. We're
Use-
sharing with George
use the
Tucker,
same
yep.
way.
Is there any issue with the elevation of the driveway as far as
It's all under 10%.
it's all going to be under 10?
Yep.
Have you, I see you had discussions with a tree person about the trees to be cut down. Have you had any discussions with anyone about the disturbance to the habitat?
There wasn't anything talked about by the forester. I didn't really address it. It was mostly, I kind of relied on the forester to tell me what was going on. But in me and my father's recent walks and everything, we've noticed an abundance of, I mean, the trees are growing in a lot better, the smaller trees, and we've noticed a lot more deer on the property. And, I mean, I can't imagine it's hurting them. It was a pretty thick forest.
I think specifically they're asking about the bats. The bat habitat.
Nothing was ever addressed.
So you've got an agreement with VAST already?
Yes.
Is that agreement, what are the stipulations in that agreement that will have an impact on your parcel?
They've agreed to move the trail.
Still under your property?
Yes. All on our property.
They're gonna keep it on your property, because I'm
Yes.
familiar with the trail. so.
Yep. And basically, it's going to come back onto the original trail just past our house. And so we're just trying to avoid people using the.
East of your house.
Yes. We're just trying to avoid people using our driveway with a snowmobile.
So, where the stone wall is,
There's a stone wall right here.
that's right.
Yep.
And that is currently the VAST trail enters there from the airport.
The vast trail enters right here
Okay.
and goes right up this trail right here.
Right.
So we're having it go right along here, and actually the vast trail is gonna smooth this part out so it's not as steep, and they're gonna come right up here, miss my septic, and then hook in right, and go right around, and then go right back onto the original trail, and they're gonna I don't want them to have to rebuild the bridge or any of that, so let them keep using the bridge
Okay.
and hook onto the trail past our house.
So they already have, you've given them an easement. for you.
I've talked to him, and he's already come flagged it and marked it, so we've already met a couple times on the property. Yep.
Jen, do you have any comments at this time?
Definitely.
Okay.
So, going back to the drainage swale question
Yep.
next to the driveway,
Yep.
you were saying that there was an existing swale on this side of the driveway, but now you're gonna reroute it and use a swale on this side?
Well, it's not a swale. This is a whole giant, it used to be a stream running through here. So basically, there's just some small runoff that runs here, and we're just gonna catch it with a swale before it hits our driveway.
So are you gonna excavate in this area and create it as a swale, like with riprap in it and stuff like that?
This is natural here, and we're gonna continue it from here down.
Uh-huh. By excavating and
Yes.
filling it with gravel?
Yes.
So you see how far that is off the driveway, right? This isn't just next to the driveway and going to a drainage at the end. This is like going off the driveway and excavating
Right.
within a little valley.
I mean, I can run it next to the driveway. I'm just trying to think future when I got kids that are gonna be 16 years old. If their driveway's next to I don't wanna pull them out every snowstorm. So, I mean, I can put it next to the driveway. It's not a big deal. It's just to basically not run the driveway out.
So you don't get much flow through there now?
I mean, there's water. It's not huge, but we gotta catch it. So there will be some sort of swale going through there and connecting to the natural swale that's already right here.
Used to be a lot more water flowing through there.
Used to be a lot of water flowing through right here, but nothing anymore.
Right.
Now it's a tiny little trickle.
Part of that starts a little further north up by Careers, I think. That has changed the flow of that river.
That whole river's been changed at
Yeah.
some point,
Yes, it has.
so,
I know that area very well. I've hunted that area for years, so.
and you still can.
Kevin,
Ann?
I'd be a lot more comfortable if I actually saw this property.
Okay.
Site visit.
Just a thought, yes,
Okay.
so that Mr. Maynard could explain physically where these things are, because from the plans it's really quite difficult to envision the forest around there.
Okay.
That would cut out my next 20 or 25 questions. Because we have to create a building envelope here somewhere.
Right, I was
So-
looking on and trying to figure out what the minimum and the maximum size. So basically, I just tried to meet all the setbacks and create an envelope that way, but I couldn't find an actual size building envelope.
Well, you could do it that way and then create a limit of clearing envelope.
Yep.
Or you could just create one tight building envelope.
Yep.
Because I don't want to speak for you, but I think the purpose of having this kind of review in the forestry district is to make sure that more trees aren't coming out than need to be coming out.
How much is, how large is the space now since you've been removing trees?
About 2.5 acres.
And how close to the setbacks is that area?
I pretty much meet most of all my setbacks.
No, I mean, have you cleared up to the setback lines?
I'm only close on one, but I don't think I'm not in any setbacks, no.
No, right.
I'd be close on the one on the ditch, the big swale here, but most of that was cleared anyways. It's already a drainage swale, so.
So Jen, could you just take a minute and explain to me how cutting of a tree within the side yard setback is a violation?
Within the setback? I don't know if Ann was saying it was a violation, but it would just be poor form. Because the idea is that we probably like to keep some sort of buffer, right? So that the house isn't reducing the enjoyment of the woods for the people next door or people using the trail or.
I can appreciate that, but I'm just trying to say, I find it awkward telling someone who owns 30 acres of land that you can only cut what trees we think you should cut versus what trees he needs to cut and still be a good neighbor. I mean, I'm just,
Well, in deliberative session, I could give you like 1,000 reasons why that's not awkward and absolutely your job. Yeah. Yeah, you have that authority, especially in the forest district. Yeah. And I think it's gonna be hard to figure out, like, where a reasonable boundary is
Exactly.
without doing that site walk that
Yeah,
Ann's
I'm
talking
sure-
about.
I know the law, I've walked that law, I know all of it. I'm sitting here trying to think, I couldn't tell you what trees he couldn't cut, or what trees he should cut, or what trees he would be able to cut.
You could give him a limit up to this point, you know, like,
Right.
so he could maybe put
These
stakes.
lines.
You could put stakes out in the woods, say, like, where you think the corner of the building is gonna be.
I already have those all there. So,
Perfect.
yep.
And then we'd be able to look at the stakes and say, all right, like, you know, that seems reasonable, but geez, can you not clear down that steep side hill going into that stream? Or
I don't think he would, well, I'm not speaking for him.
What's ever cleared is already, we're not clearing anymore. There's nothing else coming out, so.
Today I drove along Burnham Drive
Yep.
and I wasn't able to ascertain really where your property is, but I did notice a newly cleared area. Is that the area that's part of
Right
your
on the first
property?
corner,
Yes,
that'd be,
visible to Burnham Drive.
yeah, I would imagine. But that's where my house site's going, right there, right on top of it.
Anything else at this time, Jen?
Yeah, so when the forester looked at it, did he give you a forestry management plan or just provide you with some comments?
He just told me that we should clear 35% of this forest
Uh-huh.
to let the young growth come through.
Okay, but there's no actual written plan or anything like you
There's
have?
no management plan.
Yeah.
No.
Mhm.
No,
Okay.
What was it again, he could clear how much?
Oh, 35%?
35%.
Is that,
Of the whole lot?
Yes, that's what he said.
what percentage has been cleared thus far?
I couldn't give you that number right off my head. I haven't figured that out.
You said maybe 2 acres?
2.5?
For the house site, we've cleared 2.5 acres.
Well, that's not 35%.
And then there was some other select timber cut.
Does that qualify, Jen, select timber cutting versus clearing?
Qualify? Oh, he's saying that 35% was just a recommendation from his forester.
Yeah, the state.
Oh,
the
no,
state
there's no
forester.
regulation then, okay.
Nope, nope.
All right.
But there is a regulation that says you can't clear for your house site until you have a permit, which they don't yet. So maybe I'm a little like, about that, you know?
All right.
So that's why we need to create this building envelope so that we have some sort of control over where and we would work on that together during a
fine.
site walk, you know?
And letting the growth come through that the forester was talking about, is any of that envisioned to be between the house and the road?
Yeah, if we're not clearing anything, if some stuff comes through there. We haven't cleared much from the existing down. We've only cleared the little bit where the driveway is going. So anything down this way, we never really touched. It's too steep for their equipment, so they didn't do anything down here. So if stuff grows through, we're gonna let it grow.
So when this subdivision was done, there should have been clearing limits and building envelopes established. And this is 2005, our regulations probably weren't that sophisticated then. And there should have been clear conditions in that decision that said, hey, by the way, if you buy this lot, don't do any clearing until you have a zoning permit, you know, and none of those things were in that decision. So I think we're just kind of making up for an old decision now, so I don't know, I like your idea about the sidewalk.
Yes, because we could then talk about whether there's going to be any visual screening of this new building.
It's quite a bit off of Burnham Drive. I don't know.
Except that it's completely clear from Burnham Drive.
No, it's not. There's
Well,
quite a
then
bit of
perhaps
buffer.
I was looking at the wrong parcel, which is another reason why I'd kind of like to see it.
No, and I agree,
good
but
reason.
it's not visible from Burnham Drive. The lot, the boundaries aren't on Burnham Drive.
Yes, I saw that from the plan. So the clearing I saw from Burnham Drive is someone else's land?
I guess we gotta meet on the property. I'm not sure which one you're
I
talking.
don't believe you can see his building lot from Burnham Drive.
No, well, that's what I thought. That's why I was confused because what I did see today was new clearing right on Burnham Drive.
I think a site visit would be appropriate in this case just so everybody understands
Yeah,
what
I
we're
totally
dealing
agree,
with.
that's fine.
Yeah, I really do. Because what I remember of the property and where you are and what we're hearing, I don't want to say they're different, but it is. And I guess my other question is, where did the 35% come from?
The state forester who has to survey all the lands for Burlington Electric, that's who does the permitting for forestry. He's the one that came down, and that's what he told Lathrop's Mill is the recommended for this property is 35% clearing. To let the old, I mean, there was 24-inch timbers in there, totally shielding anything new from growing,
Right, yeah.
so.
Okay, anything else, Jen, at this point?
Nope, just to say that, legally, if you haven't done this in a while, you don't need to rewarn a site visit. You just adjourn this hearing to a date certain. And so you just announce to everyone who's here tonight the date and time and place, and then you don't need to rewarn it, which means you don't have to wait a month or 15 days or anything.
I like that.
Any other questions from the board at this point? Okay, are there any comments from the public at this point? Yes. Yep.
I'm Suzanne Gurley, I'm with Vernon. So one just a comment, and that is, I'm glad to hear that there are rules now about not clearing until there's a permit, because as those of us in the neighborhood know, there's been a lot of recent clearing for the runway improvement at the airport, which may or may not be what you saw when you drove
No.
today. But it means that the character of the neighborhood has changed recently with a lot of loss of trees. And my second is just a question about with the moving of the snowmobile trail. I'm wondering how much closer, it's a selfish question, I'm wondering how much closer it's going to be to my property.
It's actually not, it's not even gonna be that close, because we discussed it, and we're actually gonna, I allowed them to bring a machine in, and they're gonna smooth down this steep section. And as long as they avoid my septic, they can go right up. So there's actually gonna be a good 120 feet between the rock wall and the fast trail. But from what George has told me, there's very little snowmobile use of that trail. I don't know, he told me.
Lately, there hasn't been much snow.
So,
Okay, yes.
So Tyler and I know one another.
Yeah.
Excuse, your name, please?
So
Your name?
Judy Weibert Rose,
Okay.
East Middlebury. And I'm coming back, well, one, I'd like to know the name of the forester.
I don't know his name, it's Lathrop's. That's who I hired.
Who's in the timber business. But,
It's a state forester, it's Burlington Electric who hires them.
okay. But my concern now is the same as it has been for the airport. So this isn't about you, it's about the area that all along Munson Road, back into Spurner Drive, Schoolhouse Hill Road is all bat habitat, endangered species bat habitat. And we've encroached on it in terms of the airport. They have, the people who are cutting for the airport were told that they had to keep a certain amount of canopy and so on and so forth, and now we'll see what happens. So bat populations, of course, could go down, and then we'll see what happens afterwards. However, at some point, that needs to be included in the discussion, because if those populations are depleted, it's going to be difficult to replace. So at the very least, no more trees coming down, no more trees coming down in that entire area as far as I'm concerned. I've recently seen on Schoolhouse Hill Road and Forest Ridge Road, which is where I live, somebody with a truck and an antenna, which I know they are now tracking bats. And so I think it needs to be a serious consideration.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Ross Conrad, 609 Burnham Drive. I can tell you, if you're driving along Burnham Drive, and if you're looking through the trees, you can see the clearing area, only because it's been cleared and it's mud and it's brown compared to all the green. I think once, stuff grows in, you probably won't notice it as much. I also am wondering about the state forester's recommendation of 35% of the forest could be cut. Does that also apply to our forest conservation district? Or is that, anybody know?
So we don't have any, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, did you want to say something, Gary?
I just think what he told me was no more than 35%. You could cut less. You don't have to cut 35%.
Right, up to, okay.
Yeah, I think you were saying that 35% seemed to him to be a healthy percentage.
Right, that was the healthy, it was at 100% cover. He figured 35% spread throughout would allow the young growth to come through, and it has.
But in the forest district, the
That will
D,
increase the insects or the rats to feed on.
Yeah, and bats can help.
Songbird.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
but you have to question what that means when he says he took out 24-inch timbers. Maybe those were specimen trees that needed to remain. Maybe that was important bat habitat. So that's why before any clearing happens on these sites, you're supposed to come before the DRB, and if you hear that there's a special habitat there, you might want to require some sort of ecological assessment or get a second opinion from a forester, because maybe this was a forester who is more commercially minded,
I
or,
really wasn't a part of that.
yeah. So,
So it sounds like maybe the town should talk with our state foresters and inform them of some of the other concerns we have besides the canopy and, especially in our forest district where we have endangered species and bats and things.
First of all, I don't think that this board's responsibility to be dealing with foresters and how an applicant should be dealing with his trees. I think that's his responsibility.
Okay, well, I do know that I live on 25 acres, and when I came before this board to have my permit approved, you indicated that I was not to clear more than about 1 acre of area of trees. And I'm just wondering how different applicants get treated differently, because it sounds like there's been at least 2.5 acres of trees cleared in this case.
I don't know where they came up with your regulations.
You guys did.
I don't
That's what you
recall.
told me as part of my permit. You can go back and read it if you'd like.
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Maynard proceeded before he made his presentation before the DRB.
Nobody alerted me that I had to do that, so that's an error on me.
So the only other question I have is I appreciate the rerouting and keeping the trail. I'm just wondering how many additional trees are going to be cleared for the trail.
Shouldn't be any, we've already marked the path.
Yeah, and it's already been cut.
Yep. We actually, I told him he couldn't cut anymore. We gotta make sure it fits through, so it wasn't an option for him to cut more.
Although you said they're going to cut into the bank in that area, is that already been cut?
It's
too?
pretty well rock. There's not many trees there.
Yes.
So, again, Judy Weinberg Rose, East Montgomery. So with all due respect, I think if you guys are making decisions as far as how and where and when development is taking place, that you need to be aware of what some of the issues are. If that is about forest protection, canopy protection, habitat protection, again, development impacts all of those. And if you're making decisions about development, then you need to be aware of what those issues are.
If I might add, I believe that's the planning commission's role in Middlebury and not the DRB role. We're only here to interpret what the planning commission has decided.
So again, I beg to differ.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that in just one little way.
Right.
If it's helpful, I can explain kind of what I'm,
Sure.
only to help the board.
Right.
So it would be nice, so the planning commission, first of all, said conditional use for houses in the forest district. So that tells me that the planning commission thought that this was a very special zoning district and wanted us to take, a particularly hard look at it. And then the other part that I'm thinking is the DRB can always request additional assessments of wildlife and habitat when they feel like they need the data they need to make a decision. So it would be nice if the planning commission had performed habitat assessments on every square inch in Middlebury, but sadly they haven't. And even if they did, you'd still, in many cases, want an on-site survey because things move and change all the time. And so that's not a tool we need to use much because most of our applications aren't in areas like this, but it's one you might want to consider for forest district type properties.
And I think it's one we might have considered in this case had the trees not already been felled.
It'd be interesting to see how many are really gone.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Just one last one. Is the public welcome to join the walkthrough that you all do?
Sure.
I'll just make a comment. It's just a comment.
Your name,
That
please?
was, Alice Eccles, 609 Burnham Drive. Habitat's really important and not fragmenting habitat. And I have seen bobcat prints in that area or near that area. It's hard to be sure if it was actually in the spot. And I've also heard that farmers nearby have had more chickens stolen this year from bobcat. And so it's just a concern as we encroach more and more on the forest and take more habitat that these encounters with bears and bobcats can be more troubling and problematic.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I think we schedule a walk-through.
Okay? Is that in agreement with all members?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. What's a good date and time for everyone?
Poor Scott.
What's the weather going to be like?
Tomorrow's a nice day. The rest of the week isn't pretty. We got rain off and on.
Can everybody go tomorrow?
What time do you want to go?
I've heard the mosquitoes are really bad up there.
They're not pleasant. No. Mosquito, we're gonna, if we get approved, it'll be screened in porches.
Yeah.
Why is out here?
Yeah.
Mosquitoes are-
Can I, so tomorrow, is tomorrow good for everybody?
Except
Okay.
me.
Time?
I can't.
What's a good, huh?
I don't think I can go tomorrow.
Okay.
1 o'clock? Works really well for me. But I can be somewhat flexible. 1 o'clock for you? Huh?
Dan? You don't think you can make it?
No, my wife has an appointment, so.
Okay.
But I can go up there after. You have it all roped off or laid out right now where the house is
Driveway and
going
the house and the
to
auxiliary
be? I
apartment
can
laid
just
out.
One
make a
work all
remote.
right for you, Jen?
I think so.
And the applicant, one is okay?
1 o'clock works for me. yeah.
Okay.
All right if I go up there on my own?
Absolutely.
And where would we meet?
At his site?
Right, but
The address is 191 for George, so if you pull in that driveway and instead of going towards George's house, you head straight, you can't miss.
191
Yeah, but-
Burnham.
Okay, but we will probably have 7 or 8, maybe more cars.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
park on the
that's what
road.
I'm just going,
Road being built out the road.
No, Burnham Drive.
Burnham Drive. Okay.
So when I go.
Okay, so.
I'll try to get up there later tomorrow.
So we need a motion to recess, is that correct, Jen? Is that the term we want?
Yeah, I always, what's that?
So if we motion to recess, we can't have any more discussion. Shouldn't, we're not gonna go into deliberative discussion and then maybe recess? So that we can, I mean, I'm just throwing this out.
Well,
I mean, there's some issues that people have brought up
Okay,
that maybe we should have a conversation about.
If you do the site visit, I'm sitting here thinking, if you do the site visit, are you going to once again adjourn to a date certain and then come back and finish here
I wouldn't be able to do
on
that.
another night? Or are you going to try to make a decision while you're out there?
Do it on another night.
Yeah, I would think that'd be easier than getting all bit up.
Just continue the meeting to another night.
Yep,
yeah, that's what I would say.
okay. So in that case, you could do your deliberative session then, or did you feel like you wanted to before you went
Okay,
out?
I
Yeah.
was just trying to make sure the sequence.
Let's have the
What-
site visit first,
Yep,
then
What,
we'll
what
schedule.
time frame do we come back to meet? Can we do it anytime?
yeah, so then you'd adjourn to a date certain again, and you wouldn't need to rewarn it again.
Okay. What's our schedule like,
We're gonna
Oh,
do it
coming
again.
back?
coming
We
back?
certain to come back.
That's a, You guys are really organized and thinking ahead.
And we don't have to wait for a meeting night. We could do it another.
I better bring you some dates tomorrow, because I'll have to check like the room availability and stuff against all the other committees we have.
Sure, just send us an email.
Okay, but how will the,
Well, we'll be at the site.
Well, she's gonna find.
well, how will the public know when to come back for the rest of the hearing here? That's what we wanna, the public that has attended the meeting.
Well, you're adjourning to the site, and then if, you know, theoretically, the public would be at the site and then know when it's coming back. Or anyone who's here is welcome to contact me. Anyone can contact me.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna adjourn, to the site tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once we're at the site, you'll have your information as to when we could meet again.
Yep,
And we'll determine it then, okay.
okay. Unless you want to chance it, I just hate to see both rooms filled up, whatever night you choose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Do I need to wear a red hat up there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
He hunts up there, he'll tell you.
So, Mike, I guess if, asking ahead, part of my concern is the concern of others is, how can you see it from Burnham Drive? As of right now, the trees have started to leave out, but they're not fully leaved out, right?
They're getting there.
So, 2 weeks from now, this would look different than it would be right now, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, we'll be able to tell that tomorrow.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't predict what it's gonna look like in 2 weeks when everything's leaved out.
Well,
So I'm just saying, what we see tomorrow may not what you're gonna see in 2 weeks,
or 6 months,
or in 6 months, when the brush and everything grows up, so,
well, or the leaves fall.
right.
Okay, so is there a motion?
So wait, before you do that, the only other thing I'm thinking is, if you made this appointment later in the week, then I could try to get some sort of ecological consultant to come out and meet us too. Maybe somebody who has that kind of information. I mean, would that be helpful to you?
But
People
is
to
that
say-
our responsibility, Jen, or is that, if you put that condition on the applicant?
Yeah, if you want to put that condition on the applicant, then they're probably going to have to,
But,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
but Mr. Maynard has said he has no intention of clearing further trees.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, that if there were a bat tree in there, then it isn't likely he's gonna cut any more trees.
Is that the official term, Judy? Bat
They call them
tree?
bat trees, yeah.
The
They literally
hibernaculum.
call them bat trees now.
Yeah, I know.
And the Fish and Wildlife come in and they identify
Yeah.
bat trees.
Yeah.
And we've had, I mean, my experience has been, a lot of people have tried to identify bat trees, and they haven't been very successful at it. Especially during this gas line coming to Middlebury, they tried to identify a lot of bat trees in the right of way, and there were none. So,
That's right.
Mountain tree,
yeah,
black walnut.
That's right.
Those are black,
right,
and dead, large,
right.
gone by trees are bad.
Yeah.
So not trying to complicate it, but do
Yeah.
you want anybody to come out to give you any particular advice that we don't have amongst us?
So what are we gonna look, I wanna know what everybody's going there to see at this site visit.
So you're saying he's not going to clear any more trees, but like, there's a septic system to go in,
That site's already cleared.
That's what I want.
so the garage, the accessory apartment,
All
the
is
house
cleared.
site, damn. The driveway,
The driveway is the old Bass Trail.
all right. Well, it doesn't hurt to still look at it and still throw a building envelope out there and say, "Could just not take out any more for the."
Isn't that what we'll be doing tomorrow?
I thought you were saying because he said he's not taking any trees out that we weren't needing
I
to
just
do
want
that.
you to know,
No, we still need
all
to
of
see
those
it.
houses out there have interfered
We
with my
just-
bird hunting
I
for
think
the
about where the
last
envelope
50
goes.
years.
Doing the bat thing
So-
doesn't seem
Not
to-
mine yet.
That's right.
Hey, Ross, did you say that you can't really see where it's been cleared right now?
You can, if you kind of look over in that direction. Only because you see brown in through the trees. You know, I think once grass grows up, for example, it won't be noticeable. During the summer, of course, in the winter, when there's no leaves on the trees, it's going to look very different.
But
Okay.
most of Vermont does.
Okay, is there a motion to recess?
Go over recess to the site tomorrow, 1 o'clock.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion on the motion.
So I will-
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Meeting will be recessed till tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the site. Thank you.
So the,
ready.
so the stakes are there for, to show the buildings?
I'll be there as well, so,
Yeah.
yep, but everything's there, and I got flags going up the driveway, and their stakes for their auxiliaries there.
Okay,
Their garage isn't staked, because like I said, we weren't planning on doing that this year, so we'll end up coming back.
okay,
and
but you can just
trying
show
to-
us.
Yeah, I can show you with the approximate area where it's going, yeah.
Okay. That's good.
All right, next item is other business. Is there any other business for tonight?
I have a question.
You may ask the question.
How'd you make out with our, with motel when he came in to see her?
Yeah, we had a couple more conversations about what that application might entail, and then I got a phone call from Bill saying that he didn't want to pursue it any further. Yep. And I know during that time, he was having conversations with the motel as well, so. Yep. I don't know if it's still for sale. I haven't noticed if there's a sign out there, or if they sold it.
Okay, I'm gonna back up just a minute. Is there any reason why anybody wants to go into a deliberative session, including staff?
You mean, what we just,
For any reason?
for any reason?
Yes, I don't want to go into deliberative session, but I think the board should go into executive session and address Jen's email that was sent to us, and maybe how we should be doing things differently.
Okay, how is that different than?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
How is
That's a
that,
good idea.
how is that different than deliberative session? Where's
Well, we're going, we should say specifically, we're not going to talk about any project.
that? Right,
We're going to talk about how the board functions and our responsibilities.
okay. Would you like to do that now?
Or if you want, we can go into executive session to discuss possible conflict, or whatever you want to call it, I don't care. But I think we should have that discussion.
Okay. Would you like to have it tonight?
I would love to have it tonight.
Okay, then make a motion for us. That we would-
I think I just did.
Do we,
Okay.
do we adjourn the actual meeting and then just stay for that? How do we do that?
I guess I looked to Jen for that. What do you want to do?
Because
Adjourn the meeting
it's not
and then-
going to
No,
be
we're
on
not
the
adjourning.
record.
We're going to executive session to discuss,
You'll have to come out at some point anyway.
right.
Can't we
Go into
adjourn it
executive
first?
session. I thought we could just go into deliberative session.
Yeah, I think any board can go into executive session for the purpose of discussing employee matters, legal issues, and conflict of
Okay.
interest probably falls within that category.
All right,
Yep.
we can,
We could defend why we're going.
Kevin, don't forget we should reelect
yeah.
a chair.
Tonight?
I don't know, at some point. I keep forgetting to remind you. Like town meeting time?
I make a motion to re-elect Kevin to the chair.
Oh, yeah. I'll second that
Well,
motion.
no, you
And I
can't,
move.
no, you can't do that yet because you already made a motion to go into deliberative
That's
session.
true. See what a good chair he is?
So, is there a second to, do you want to have, do you want to,
We need a motion second.
the reason is to discuss any particular thing?
Not any particular thing. I want to discuss the email that Jen
Okay.
sent to all of us about.
There's a second for that?
Yes,
All in, yes.
yes, all,
No, not quite yet. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. So we're going into deliberative session. So Kathy, do you know what that means?
Now, are you going to reconvene in this meeting afterwards?
Yes. So you cannot go home.
Okay.
It should be just a quickie though.
I'm going to stop the recording now.
Right. Thank you.
Unless they're putting it on during the day or at certain
I make a
hours.
motion that we can come out of deliberative session.
Moved and seconded, discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. We're out of deliberative session.
I'd like to make a motion that we elect Mr.
No-
Newton as the chair.
Does this have to be warned or anything like that?
I don't
No.
think so.
Huh?
Oh, I know, you're taught.
I think it's
I
falls under
second.
other business.
We have a motion and a second.
At least this time it was done with me
You're
present.
here.
Well, you know what, we could have done it without you, but we didn't.
Vote for question.
There you go.
Was there a motion?
Yes, there was. We have a second, Mr. Foster, second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? I shouldn't be doing this, really.
Just go ahead.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Chairman's not voting.
I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Rick Emlo as vice chair.
I'll second.
Oh, that's tricky.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We probably should have asked for other,
Who seconded that, Don?
Pardon me?
Did you second that motion?
should
He
we,
made a motion, I seconded it.
should we have,
It should be pending the agreement of
no,
Rick.
but should we,
We didn't let him have that option last time.
should,
we need
are
any-
we supposed to ask for other nominations?
Are there any other,
Okay.
There
the-
is nothing other to fill, is there?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay,
know
the
that.
other thing is, do we have to name a newspaper where the warnings go in? Is that something we have to do every year?
Not that I know of, but it wouldn't hurt.
I think we usually did that.
We used to do that.
Let's do it then.
I make a motion that we use the Addis Independent as our form of public notice and all of the public buildings related to.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I think that's done by the selectmen.
I think we always used to do it, though.
Pardon me?
Is there a second?
Second, sure.
There's a motion, there's a second, is there a discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
And I think we have to confirm our meeting date.
We do?
Yep.
Second.
Second and fourth Mondays of each month.
When needed.
Kevin, what happened to your vast knowledge of all these things?
Is there anything on the
Slipping away.
agenda for 12?
As smart as I
Was there a second on that motion about the second and fourth?
That's the, who made the motion?
I guess. we-
Scott did. I'll second it.
Okay.
Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Anything else, Scott, that we
I'm
gotta
trying to
do?
remember if there was any others.
So your next meeting is June 12, and you have two things on the agenda. One is a fellow who wants to build like a little hut and store some of his landscaping equipment on a small lot that's at the corner of Quarry Road and Case Street. And he's gonna need use approval for that and setback waivers to make that happen.
Quarry Road and Case Street.
It's
The Forbes property?
Chuck Steady. Yeah, so this is part of the, Carol Wood is one of the sisters, and I forget the name of her other sister, and they have quite a bit of property there at the corner.
Down the orchard.
Where the orchard was.
Yeah, at the end of Quarry Road.
Was that on?
The north side of Quarry Road at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and so then this is opposite that, just on the corner. It's this little odd rectangle on the corner.
They own a chunk of land south of, where the gravel pit
On the other side of Case Street.
was.
Yeah,
On the east side.
right. Yeah, they own that.
They have,
Quite a bit
there's
in
more
there.
gravel there, or more than there was on the Fenn property.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second application is Tony Neary coming back for final approval of his plan to do the miniature golf out behind the A&W. And so he has moved those picnic tables and created the access that he heard the board asking for at the preliminary. And he's had an engineer drop a plan for him, nice engineered plan, so hopefully.
So He's now,
Wrapped up.
what happened to the storage building that he was gonna put back there?
Not a storage building, he's,
Originally, when he came in, when he developed that, he was gonna put a building back there. It was
Yeah.
gonna be an amusement, indoor amusement.
That
yeah,
was-
there's a building that goes with it. It's like a little
No, this is
shed.
more than just a little building.
Uh-huh.
You might wanna go back and check on that.
Was that the time,
Well, if
that was
that-
one before?
If he's not applying for that, he's just applying for the miniature golf.
Yep.
Outdoor.
Yeah, miniature golf with a shed from which they would serve creamies,
Yeah.
maybe dispense the clubs.
But he's not going that route that he, I don't know, okay. Anyway, okay, so that's
That's gonna be when?
June 12th.
June 12th.
That it? Anything else?
He's gotta check his schedule. I don't know why. Other business at this time? Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second?
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. We're done, Kathy.